Hello and welcome to the Redscast podcast, or should I say welcome back. We haven't done a podcast for like 3-4 months, so it feels so good to say that. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube, we've completely changed all of our studio, so that's where we've been the past 4 months, but we decided that when we came back we had to have a slight difference. We've been doing a lot of match reviews and match previews, but the whole emphasis of the Redscast was to come and interview people with stories to tell about Liverpool, interview ex-players, people with associations to the club, anything with a story about this fantastic club. That was the whole basis of setting up the Redscast. So we decided that we are going to go back to the core basis of this and start season 3 basically completely fresh. So every episode from there on out with the Redscast is going to be interviews with people who've got stories to tell about this football club. And yeah, let's see where it takes us. I want to say a big, massive shout out to Daz from the Liverpool Connection podcast for sorting this first guest out for us. He is an absolute legend, heart of gold. Do go and check out his podcast. It's available everywhere. It's the Liverpool Connection podcast. They have some phenomenal guests on it, and he really helped me out with episode 1 of this podcast because I present to you Bruce Grobbelaar is episode 1 of season 3. I am so excited for everyone to hear this. So do stay locked. Leave a like rating. Leave a subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a little comment. Let me know what guests you'd like to see on the podcast. But first, enjoy episode 1. It is Bruce Grobbelaar on the Redscast podcast. Enjoy. Taking it back to the very start, where did your love for football come from?
Wow, you're talking about my love for football here, going back until, way back. I think I was looked after at the football field by my father.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because my mother and father were both in their own sports at the sports club called Railton Sports Club in Salisbury, Rhodesia. And my mother was playing hockey and looked after my sister, who was probably 4 at the time, and I was 2.
Yeah.
And my father looked after me, but he was a goalkeeper, so he stuck 2 rods in the ground, tied me to it, and I went 5 meters that way, 5 meters backwards, watching him play in goal. So that was from the age of 2 till 4, and then 5, I learned to sit down in the dugout, and that was it.
What team did you grow up supporting then?
In Africa, I supported my father's team, Railton, but then when we got our television, we could get match of the day on the Saturday. Yeah. And I played all the sports in Africa, played cricket, baseball in the summer, rugby, football in the winter. And because Derby County played at the baseball ground, I thought, well, this is cool. Here's a team in Britain that play baseball. So yeah. I was Derby County fan. And
when you made that reaction, then I thought you were going to say United or someone.
No. And the bubble burst when I found out no baseball was ever played at the baseball ground. It was the worst ground in the first division at the time, and so I was out at my uncle's farm out in Yazura, and we're sitting on a lake, and I remembered the birds of teams in the first division, like Tottenham and Crystal Palace and Liverpool. And I'm thinking, geez, which one looks like a cormorant? So I didn't want to go for a rooster, but the cormorant looked like the liver bird. And I thought, bang, that's going to be my team from now on.
So obviously,
that's how it grew.
So like you grew up like watching Liverpool and stuff. What was it like when you actually had the chance to move to Liverpool? Because obviously you had a spell at Crewe. And where did you first?
Well, listen, Darren, it took a long time for me to get to where I was.
Yeah.
A team that I turned to save me from the Derby County. So Liverpool came, and that was my team. Yes, and my favorite colour at that time was red. So
Match made in heaven.
I chose that. And what was it like? It took me coming. I remember sitting in the middle of the bush with 3 of my colleagues in the army, and we're making lunch. And I said, you know what? If I get out of here, I'm going to try and get to play for Liverpool. And the one fellow across the road, he said, get out of here. You know, we're going in for an ambush tonight. One of us could get shot. And yeah, one of us did get shot. It was him, but we managed to save him. He was one of my best mates.
Good news. So obviously you did have a military career, didn't you, before you became a professional footballer?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately for me.
Yeah. So obviously you started off at Vancouver Whitecaps. How different was, like, in major professional, how different was the MLS then to what we're seeing now?
Well, when I was there, it was the North American Soccer League. It was a league that was taking off. All the big names around the world went to play there. The likes of Pele, Beckenbauer, Johan Cruyff, the Naiskin brothers, QBS, big names, Willie Johnston. So it was a vision that the Americans had to make it the best league in the world. If they learned from the British something, is how to get to that stage. But the Premier League for me is still the best. And when I went there, the difference was we had to entertain the fans, or try and get the fans off the American football, the basketball, or the baseball.
Yeah.
So when we played, we had to interact with the fans and give it, and chat to them, and they have these what do they call it? These mascots. So one of the games in Tampa, they had the Dallas Cowboy, that they had the San Diego Chicken, and they had some other bird, and these were entertaining the fans. And I remember playing this game, and the shot went past me, past the goal. The chicken dived, caught the ball, and then ran away with the ball.
Right.
And wouldn't give the ball back. And the only way that he gave the ball back was with the referee coming to give him a yellow card. He dropped the ball, and then he kicked me in my behind as I ran away. So, it was one of those. So I rugby tackled him, gave the fans a little bit, and then that's probably where I got all my crazy stuff from.
Yeah.
But the difference between playing there was we were trying to get the fans to come on our side, and Vancouver, we played in front of 30,000 at the Empire Stadium. So it was a little bit different, because in Africa I played in front of 30,000 Africans. I was used to playing in front of big stadiums. But when I came to Anfield, that was just a sheer, that was the best. In between, I was in Crew, which had 5,000 or 6,000 people, which actually it taught me the way of the British football.
Yeah.
You don't have to mess about. You got to do it properly. Unfortunately, in my first 6 months at Liverpool, I didn't do that, and we weren't in the best position.
Obviously, speaking of Crew, is that why you made the switch to the English League then, to try and get noticed by a First Division side, because it was the best standard?
No, unbeknown to me, my manager at Vancouver Whitecaps, Tony Waiters, used to work with the academy at Liverpool, and then he went over to North America to take over Vancouver Whitecaps, and it was he who told Liverpool about me in Vancouver, and then sent me to Crew on loan. with Tony Waddington, who was a good friend of his. And Tony Waddington took me in at Crewe. Liverpool, I never knew how long it took for them to get me a work permit and a league clearance and a government clearance to actually come into the country and play. And it was down to Tony Waiters, Peter Robinson, the late Peter Robinson, who's unfortunately just passed away, and Bob Paisley, and the length of time that they had and the amount of letters that had to be written to the league and the FA to allow this African boy to come in and play in the UK.
It's crazy, isn't it? But speaking of Paisley, absolute Liverpool legend, icon like yourself, when you hear that he's interested in you, given the success he'd also had prior before you came, how was that for you, knowing you were going to work under Bob Paisley?
Well, I never knew I was going to go to Bob Paisley until Bob Paisley came to Vancouver to ask me if I'd like to play for Liverpool. I knew that he came to the last game of the season at Crewe when we played against York City on the 3rd of May, 1980. And he watched 20 minutes of the warm-up and then left. So I must have impressed him in the warm-up because he never watched our game. He went to go and watch Stoke City play Port Vale. So I believe through sources of mine that he actually, that was on the 3rd of May, on the 5th of May, on the Monday, he came back to Crewe to ask Tony Waddington if he'd like to see me. And Tony Waddington told him that he had to go to Vancouver, which he didn't like. He didn't like flying long ways. And 6 weeks later, he came to Vancouver and he asked me a question. And then I never saw him. I answered the question and he walked out the door. Him and Tom Saunders went out the door and I never saw them for another 6 weeks because that was when I was signed by Liverpool Football Club.
I wasn't knowing that you were going to be going to Liverpool then after that 12-week period that you were on your way, bags packed, and you were going to represent the team that you had grew up watching as well.
Well, in the 6 weeks after I came to Crewe, Bob Paisley only came to ask me, would I like to play for Liverpool?
You still didn't know?
And I said, yes, it'll be an honor and a privilege. And he said, yes, okay, Tom, let's go. And they went back to the airport, jumped on the plane that night and flew back. Now, in the next 6 weeks, I played every game for Vancouver Whitecaps. And on week 5, we got a new goalkeeper that came to Vancouver. And it was David Harvey from Leeds. And I was thinking, well, what's going on here? And then week 6, we played against San Diego. And yeah, the next morning, got up, went to training, and Tony Waiters said to me, do you need anything shipped to the UK? I said, no, nothing much. I got my clothes and my stuff. He said, good, because I've just sold it to Liverpool for £250,000, a record for a goalkeeper that they know nothing of, but you're going tonight. So I had to go back, get packed, and then I left that night, and then got to Heathrow the next morning, and yeah.
Do you think transfers were done better then back then, not knowing?
Sorry?
Do you think the transfers were done better then back then, not knowing, not all the media and stuff?
Jeepers creepers. I was a record signing for a goalkeeper, and I landed at Heathrow Airport thinking that there's someone coming to pick me up.
You had to make your own way from London to Liverpool?
Correct. To Manchester, and then Manchester, I thought the limousine was coming.
It still didn't.
Still didn't. So, yes, I got into Liverpool, yeah.
What was the pressure like then, coming in as a record free for a goalkeeper who many didn't know relatively much about?
Well, when I got there, we had the greatest goalkeeper that Liverpool has ever seen.
By yourself.
England's finest goalkeeper that's ever played in Ray Clements, the late Ray Clements. And I knew for a fact that I was going to be there for, a fair amount of time, knowing that we've got this fantastic goalkeeper there. I played 3 games in the reserves in the 6 weeks leading up to the end of the season. My games were away from home, and Steve Igrizovic played at home. So, yeah, it was pretty surreal when at the end of the season, off-season, Ray Clements decides to go. So coming back in, they threw me in the deep end, and yeah, first 6 months, as I said, yeah, I didn't particularly perform well. And that's when Bob Paisley at Boxing Day pulled me in the office and asked how I thought I had played for the first 6 months. And I said, well, I could have played better. And he said, yes, if you don't, you'll find yourself back at Crewe. And yeah, that year, Boxing Day onwards, from New Year's Day onwards, we went on a run and we won the league by 3 points with a game to spare. So
fantastic turnaround. Did you get to learn much from Ray Clements then in your short spell that he was there at the club, would you?
Yes, I did. And the big thing was to be myself, not to copy anybody, and be confident. And that was coming from him. He always gave an encouragement wherever he saw. And when we met at Wembley in the League Cup final in my first year, he just said, well done, you've turned things around, continue doing what you do, and you'll be okay.
He wasn't wrong, was he? You played the majority of your career though at Liverpool under huge names. We mentioned Paisley, you had Joe Fagan, Dalglish, Ronnie Moran, Souness. But who would you say was the most influential on your career?
I'll get three of those 5. Well, Souness, and then there's Roy Evans. Three of the 5, which was Paisley, Fagan, and Sir Kenny Dalglish. Those guys have been a huge influence on my career at Liverpool. And, I can heartily say, put my hand up and say 3 of the top 5 managers I've worked under in the world.
Oh, God. Did you know, obviously you played with Kenny as well, did you just know he had that nous for management before he took the step into it?
Oh, we never knew that. Listen, we never knew that he was going to take over. We thought it was going to be Alan Hansen. Alan Hansen was the one that stood up in front of us and said, yeah, we're looking for an interim manager and it's going to be me. And he slaughtered everybody in the room and then walked out the room, came back, sat down, and the chairman came back and he said, well, Kenny is now gone. I'm going to be the new caretaker manager. Now that Kenny is gone, new caretaker manager is going to be Ronnie Moran. And Alan Hansen, creepers, took the mickey out of us so much there that, it's unbelievable.
Obviously, in Liverpool, you made over 620 appearances over 13 years, regarded as one of the greatest goalkeepers in Liverpool history. What does Liverpool Football Club mean to you, though?
Liverpool Football Club gave me a position where I could actually look back at life of the first, in my professional career, 13 years of the best type of life I've ever had. Football in general saved my life, really.
Yeah.
And I talk about in my book about how football saved my life. But the journey to get to Liverpool was the journey that I dreamt about whilst I was dodging bullets in the bush war. And for me to become mindful of where I'd been and where I'm wanting to get to, I needed some stability. And football gave me that stability because you knew that you had to be fit all the time. Your mind has to be trained to be as good as ever when you're on the pitch. So that took my mind off what happened in the bush war, if insane. So you look at yourself before you actually get into all the rigmaroles of why you do it and how, or thinking back to what happened. Football, in general, saved my life, but Liverpool gave me the best years of my footballing life.
You didn't do too bad either, did you? 6 league titles, 3 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, 5 Charity Shields, European Cup, Super Cup. Did you imagine at the start that you'd ever have this much success?
Darren, we're only custodians of a position given to you. And when you take over that position, you look after it at the best of your ability. And if you become the person that I have at a club like Liverpool, then I think I've done a little bit for the club. And I'll hold it up. When you look at the keepers that we've had in the past, going through and come right to today, we've had some fine goalkeepers. And in the early days, before emails and everything, we used to have a teletext. And our teletext at Liverpool was goalkeeper. So we've followed the tradition as Liverpool Football Club, and we always will. We will always have. Regarding whoever comes in, we'll have the finest goalkeepers, and it's up to us to make sure that it does. You know, and the fans, for me, have made goalkeepers play much better because they appreciate
a good goal,
the position and goalkeepers. It doesn't mean your own goalkeepers at Liverpool, but also the opposition. And if you notice that we are the only team that actually appreciates the other opposition goalkeepers.
Yeah, we do. When he walks the cop, they give a clap, don't they?
Absolutely.
So what's your opinion on the great man between the sticks at the minute, Alisson Becker? How good is he from a goalkeeper's perspective?
Goalkeeping is about your angles. And if you notice that Alisson Becker, he is unbelievable on these angles. That's down to his positioning, where he doesn't really have to have a full dive at getting balls. He's in the right place at the right time. And I can say that wholeheartedly, the goalkeeping department at Liverpool Football Club is actually superb. I never thought I would say this, but because I've had a go at the goalkeeping department's head goalkeeping coach in the past, and that was only just because of his handling of a couple of goalkeepers. And I can see now that they've got a great goalkeeping department in the positions that they've got have now. Alisson Becker is probably one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the world, moving upwards in my mind, and will become probably the top goalkeeper in the world.
Yeah, and his backup's not too bad either. In Queeve Gallagher he's looked fantastic when he's had a bit.
We've got another one behind him in Adrian, and for me, we've still got a fine goalkeeper in Loris Karius.
Yeah, he was fantastic though, wasn't he? To be fair, before the final that season, didn't he win the Champions League Golden Glove that year as well?
He did. Unfortunately, he might have had a slight concussion when he got nailed, which nobody looked into. Nobody looked on why, and calming him down, putting your arm around him, helping him out of a bad situation after the final, other than sending him away on loan.
Yeah.
So it's a catalyst of everything. But I think everybody's learned, and he's still a fine goalkeeper.
Yeah. Speaking of Champions Leagues, you won one of them yourself. How was that going to play Roma in their own backyard? Like, was that one of the greatest nights of your life?
It was a scary night to start off with, because all the team was stoned. You know that?
No, didn't know that.
Yeah, it was the rocks coming through the bus windows.
With the hell from their fans.
From their fans, yeah.
How was it after? Obviously, did that rile you on more to want to go on and win the game?
Well, listen, we went through the game. You know, the two goals that were scored, Phil Neal's off his shin, and excuse me, the Pruzzo's header that got in front of Alan Hansen, flicked it, were pretty good goals. But we controlled the game after that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we hit the bar. The keeper made some great saves, and we didn't take our chances. So we got ourselves into a penalty shootout. But it was Joe Fagan that gave me the idea of trying to put them off.
Yeah. And would you say then was that pinnacle? Like when you hear stories from like Stevie G and stuff like that, they always talk about the Champions League being like the pinnacle of their football career, but you won so many other honours. Would the Champions League still rank higher than all of them for you?
Well, if you have a look at the Champions League, the Champions League wanted a Champions League of all the champions in the whole of Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. European Cup was a knockout tournament straight from the get-go.
Oh, so no group stages or anything?
No group stages, anything. If you get knocked out in the first round, you get knocked out in the first round.
So it was a lot harder.
And it was a knockout right from the beginning. When I took over from Ray Clements, the 2 seasons after we had won in Paris, the 2 seasons that we got knocked out were both my fault.
Yeah.
Goals that I coming forward, keeper dropping at people's feet, yes, bang, goal, missing a cross, header, goal. So we got knocked out in those days behind the Iron Curtain. So it was a harder place to go.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it gives you an impetus. You can, get in the top 2, and then you seeded. So, you can play, who you're going to be playing before you even actually get there. And your journey is going to be mapped out.
Yeah, because it was a lot harder to win, wasn't it, when it was the European Cup? More prestige.
It was a Champions Trophy.
Yeah, the best.
Not a Champions League. Yeah.
Do you prefer the old format then to the new format?
It's a money spinner, the new format, and everybody knows that. But yes, I know why they've done it, because now the revenue comes in and everybody's getting richer, and yeah, it makes sense to them. But if you want a true champion, then go back to the old one.
You'll soon find out who it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So out of the leagues you won then, is there any which year would stand out to you the most as where you felt at the absolute top of your game? Because, I mean, you won 6 of them. So which was the year you'd say was the year where
I would say the first year, the 1981-82 season.
Yeah.
Because we were 13 points behind, we're 12 points behind first place and sitting in 13th in the league. That was a fantastic team. And then with Kenny winning the league at Chelsea, that was another great team. And then again, 89, yeah, we came winning that one. That was another great team.
It had a lot more purpose as well, didn't it? Winning it in 1989 for other reasons, obviously off the pitch. Was probably one of the lowest of the lows for all players during the club. How was it being part of the team, winning? So first of all, winning the league, knowing that it had so much more ride on it that year, and also around the Hillsborough disaster. How was it being a player at that time? How did you still manage to win football games with all that like in your heads?
Well, here comes the story that I will tell that many people don't know. During that trying time that all the players and the manager in Sir Kenny Dalglish, I believe that he should have been knighted straight after that final for the way he conducted himself around the bereavement of the Hillsborough and with how he conducted himself in helping the bereaved families getting counseled. Now, if you have a look at what we did as players, we were all billeted and told where to go to which funerals with the counselors to talk to families. We actually counseled ourselves with the counselor and the bereaved families.
Wow.
And the way that Sir Kenny and Marina Dalglish set about setting it up to do, I believe he should have got knighted then. And the way that he conducted himself was absolutely superb. We all faced exactly the same. We were all troubled souls. Some of us probably didn't want to play, but after we had got the counseling that we needed, and yes, some of us were actually spat at, told to get on the flying fish by the families, but your persistence with the counselors, making them listen, helped us into a better place. And for me, the people that were surrounded in the Hillsborough tragedy have come to realize that they're a group of people that did it for the city of Liverpool, because we weren't the only ones that had to be counseled, because some families are split, and because their son went to Hillsborough, they had to be mended as well. And it's the whole city that needed to be mended. And hopefully we did that. Unfortunately, the other side we had to play against.
Yeah. So just want to get your view on how important the Hillsborough law is then. We've seen Liverpool, the first club, obviously, to back it. Now we've seen so many clubs follow suit. It was off the back of the Anne documentary on ITV over in the UK, which was fantastic. And I feel as though that will show fans from other clubs maybe what Hillsborough actually means. But how important do you feel the Hillsborough law is? And because when you read through it, really, it's shocking that it's not already law, isn't it?
I believe the Hillsborough law will be passed in the House of Lords. It should have been done. It should have been done very, very quickly after what happened. And it's again down to the people that put the program on about Sir Kenny Dalglish and how he's campaigned.
Yeah.
And everything to do with Liverpool Football Club, because Liverpool Football Club is the backbone of this Hillsborough law.
Yeah. On a more lighter note, you're the reason Liverpool didn't win the league from when the last time you won it, isn't it, aren't you?
Well, if you believe the stories that I know that happen in Africa, because I do believe in them, Yes, I should never have had a witch doctor at my testimonial game. And for me, having a witch doctor and him saying to everybody in the stadium, if you don't have the jungle man Bruce Grobbelaar working here at this place, you won't win the league again. And we never did. And me and my small brain never picked it up until I actually came back and thinking about it, because I've been back to Africa and I know what they do in Africa, because I've been part of that witch doctor football background. Yes, I knew what to do. So I had to break the curse with your own euro.
So the minute you realised that this was because of you and you had to obviously wee on the posts, did you do it straight away?
No, there was a time where I was thrown out. I peed on 2 posts at the Kop end and I got caught by the security guard and I got thrown out of the stadium. So when we played Chelsea, Stevie G slipped. We came second. And I told the story to a good friend of mine at Hotel Tier, Norwegian fella. And then in, I don't know, that's 2018, I think it was, he was invited for a corporate game at Anfield. I think it's 2018 or 19, I'm not too sure, to come and play for Hotel Tier in goal. And when we were sitting in the dressing room, he said, "Now listen, you're going to have to finish everything." I said, "Yes, I'll try and play well." And he said, "No, finish what you started." So I went I knew what he said. I went into the toilet, emptied a water bottle and peed in the water bottle and poured the urine over the posts and then splashed the top, put the top on it for the first half and did the second half. And that's when we went on the run and we won the league.
It's remarkable, and anyone who doesn't believe it, it's too uncanny for it to not be true, isn't it?
Well, I've done it in Africa and it's worked with when they say there's donkeys. If the donkeys are on the pitch in your opposition stadium, you've got to take the donkeys out of the stadium, then get 4 guys to go and stand on 1 post each and pee on the post. And you want to see the fans go absolutely ballistic because now they know that you're taking their medicine away. And at the end of it, you win and you walk out and your bus gets stoned.
So it makes you think, though, doesn't it? If that witch doctor didn't put the spell, we might have won it under Gerard Houllier as well, because we come very close that year. But at least the curse is broken now. And where was you when we won the league? What was that like for you as a fan?
When we won the league?
Yeah.
Where was I? I was so ecstatic. I was there. And it was brilliant.
It was good to the club, wasn't it, to have all ex-legends like yourself actually be able to there to witness it because it had been so long.
What was so bad about it is we weren't allowed to celebrate in front of the fans.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time coming, but I hope there will be a day that the team can go around the streets with the cups again, and I think it'll come very, 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 very soon. Speaking
of praise like that, you've obviously had a few yourself. What are they like? We heard the likes of Jürgen and stuff speaking about it being overwhelming, the amount of support they had. How are they for you? You had so many.
If I tell everybody, they'll say that that's just him blowing it up, but it is not. If you go around on the bus in Liverpool, and I've been on a few, it is absolutely mind-blowing on how many people actually love that team and the city.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they've never been to Anfield, they come out in their droves. just to see the parade, and it is absolutely fantastic. It
Does
is
it,
absolutely fantastic.
does it ever take you back just how big this club is?
Of course it does. It's a massive club. You know, people in Brazil named their club after Liverpool. There's a Liverpool playing in Brazil, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
It is massive, massive. You know, if you go around, Zimbabwe is probably more Liverpool than any other team now.
Because you
South
have
Africa,
influence because of yourself.
myself, and also South Africa.
Yeah.
And there are teams in Africa that they love that the Liver Bird and Liverpool Football Club.
I bet you get a hero's welcome every time you're back home.
Plus, if you want to know a true fact, I went out to Beijing, and I was out there. Was it Shanghai? I'm not too sure. No, which was it? Yeah, it was Beijing. No, it wasn't. It was Shanghai. I went to Shanghai with AXA and with Standard Chartered, and Petro Canada lubricants.
Yeah.
And I found out there, whilst there, that Petro Canada lubricants had been with Liverpool for 3 years, and they never knew how many Chinese people watched Liverpool when Liverpool played.
Probably a good lot of them, isn't it? A good proportion of them.
Well, 62 million.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe when you go over to China, you get heroes welcomes and stuff, don't you?
Well, they only know the players on the park now. I was just there as an old person. But the older people, yes. So, yeah, it was a mind-blowing experience going out there and teaching the Chinese the word of Liverpool around in China. But I was blown out in my mind. No, sorry, 286 million. I've just seen it now.
That's even more.
286 million.
That's a lot of people. A lot of people.
Yeah.
What's it like then? Like you just said, you was out there with AXA and Standard Chartered and Petro. What's it like post football, still being able to represent the club? Is that something many clubs do, or is that just Liverpool embodying ex-legends as like family, so to speak, because we're a very family club, or is it something you enjoy as well?
Liverpool Football Club was the first club to have a former players association. It was run by the players, and they had a chairman, a secretary, and a treasurer. And we used to have 3 meetings a year, one a golf a day, one lunch, charitable, and then just the boys get together. And because the club has now moved on, we've gone to now the Forever Reds, and the Forever Reds are asking people to do things for the former players. But the club has been very, very good to our former players because they get a chance to come to the game, work some lounges, work a couple of hotels in the city before games, and they've helped the players tremendously, after in their football after life. And it's the afterlife of football that a lot of footballers might think that it might be the end. And Liverpool Football Club has helped quite a lot of the former players.
How much do you enjoy doing it then, going out, interacting with all the fans, the Legends games? Is it something that you love more than anything else post-football?
Well, I would have loved which I still, try and get into is coaching, because I like coaching and doing things for youngsters and seeing getting them better. So I'll have probably one more coaching soiree up my sleeve somewhere in the world, and then I'll have a look at it. But Liverpool Football Club will still be there even if I'm going to go on these journeys with the coaching, I will still come back to Liverpool Football Club and be a part of that great big family that we are.
Speaking of coaching, is that the bug that's never left being a footballer? You always want to be involved within the game.
Yes, you have to go through the loops and everything to be in that position. But I, for one, has been one that I'll always be in it. Football has given me my life back, and I want to give back to football, and that's just me.
It's addictive, though, isn't it? It's the best thing in the world, really, football.
Listen, football is the best sport in the world because it's the only sport that brings people together all over the world, and they are the politicians on the day.
Yeah.
The people on the field are the politicians of the day. However you look at it, it doesn't matter. Liverpool playing against Independiente, they are the politicians of UK, and they are the politicians of Brazil.
Yeah.
For that time that they're on the field, everybody's watching them, and they are the politicians. And football bring people together.
Yeah.
And make joy for everybody. Maybe some sadness, but for the others, but yeah.
It's plus when you speak about football, you can see out in your face how much it means to you, how passionate you are, how excited you are about it. I just want to take your mind back when you were 37 and you left Liverpool to make the move to Southampton. How was that? Was that one of your lower days, or was that still a high, like a new chapter, a new challenge?
No, it was a new challenge with the late Alan Ball, who is another top manager in my eyes. I went there for 2 years, and so it wasn't the salubrious time that of football that I went down there. My first year, I was accused of match fixing, and I played 80% of that season's games. So I missed 6 games, and that was because of a depressed cheekbone.
Wow.
After 4 games, Alan Ball came to me and he said, listen, I'd really want to take you to the hospital to get a mask fitted, because I think that you could play better than David Besson in goal. And it took me 2 weeks to get it, so I went back. And we ended up 10th in the league.
It's not a bad achievement.
Second year I was there. Yeah, 10th in the league was the highest they have ever achieved since the start.
Yeah.
I know they've been higher since then, but it's only to 6th, I think it was, or 8th.
Yeah, recently.
And the next year I played under Dave Merrington, who only played me the last 6 games of the league because they were languishing in relegation. And that's when we went 5 games, draw, saved them from relegation. So I thought I was going to stay there. But unfortunately, the third manager there, which my next year was Graham Souness, who told me, no, he didn't want me. So I went to Plymouth with Neil Warnock. I went around the leagues, lower, and when I got down to Macclesfield, Northwich Victoria. When I played for Northwich Victoria in the FA Cup, and then the replay, they told me that they didn't want me. I thought about, I'm going down south that fast. I went out to Africa and coached teams in Africa for 7 years, took 5 teams in South Africa coaching, and I loved every minute of it. And then I found myself going over to Canada, set up the western side of the Newfoundland League on the island, went out and coached with Ottawa Fury. And then I found myself coming back to Anfield.
Because you had played in all the leagues. I was looking at that. You played, literally went right down to the counties leagues and stuff. You've had such a mad journey in football, really. But sure, can you remember? Do you remember them days fondly in the non-league footballs? Because a lot of people in the UK say that's where proper football is played these days. What was it like for you playing in the counties?
Absolutely. Listen, in the counties are the places where football starts, with the youngsters and with the junior programs. If you do not have those county teams and the junior programs, you're never going to get the likes of Michael Owen, Ian Rush, all the big name, Harry Kane, John Barnes. You're not going to get those people if you don't have those counties clubs and all those leagues. So if you can give back to those county clubs, which I did in Castleford, I played for Glasshout and Welfare. If you can't give back to them what they've seen, what you can do, or go and help out in the community and coaching, then we're not going to have those teams. Yeah. And you're not going to get the new stars in the world. So yes, county teams, you need them in the world. Football is the best sport in the world, as I've said, because it brings communities, teams together, and some sadness. But in life, that happens.
Yeah. So what would you, with modern day, you see a lot of players go to the likes of Americas and stuff to see the careers off. Would you say players would get more out of doing what you did and dropping down the leagues gradually and eventually play? Because imagine the experience you give for the counties league when people were coming up against Bruce Grobbelaar. Do you think it's important that people continue passing that down, or are you just one in a million?
Maybe I didn't know my my decline in goalkeeping at the time, and I was going down that fast. but yes, I was pretty old in those times, and so I've got no regret. Listen, I came out of retirement at the age of 60, and I played in the Conifa World Cup for Matty out in London area, and yes, I became the oldest goalkeeper to play in a World Cup at the age of 60, and we beat the Chagos Island 1-0.
Because you was in goal.
I was in goal for the first 35 minutes, and then we put the other keeper in, and he got injured, so we had to put the third goalkeeper in. We still won 1-0. But it's crazy. You ask where Conifa, it's the countries non-affiliated to FIFA.
So it's like really small countries.
Small countries. So the Chagos Islands, for instance, we played against them, beat them 1-0. They had the Isle of Man in this tournament as well. So, it's little place off Sicily, a little island, one of those, parts of Italy. They had Italian Premier League players playing for them, the Italian side. But you ask where the Chagos Islands is. Well, the Chagos Islands is in the Indian Ocean between India and Madagascar, a strategic point of about 5 islands. So I asked the captain, well, it must be beautiful. He says, oh, yes, it was, but there's no people living on there. It was taken away from them by the British and the American governments, and it's now an Air Force NATO base.
But he can still play. They still go name the country and play for the country.
Yes, I said, well, where do you living now? He said, in Croydon. I said, what happened to all the others? Oh, they split up from Birmingham, Bradford.
Yeah, so
and they live in the UK. So, yeah,
it's amazing. That was more of an experience than like a World Cup, though, weren't it? Because everyone's got some mad stories to tell in that.
Listen, it was a great time. I got Matt Billyland, the their boots. And some of these kids that were playing never wore boots in their life. And they were crying when we got them their boots. That was the help of New Balance with Liverpool Football Club. They gave us all the boots that are sent back because they different sizes and they couldn't fit them. They're not allowed to sell them, so we got those and we gave them to our team. And it was good to see.
That's amazing. So one of the final few questions here: what's your opinion on modern day football? Because when I speak to my dad and stuff, he's always like, "Oh, they just fall on the ground these days. It's not proper football." I mean, you've had some famous fights with like McAteer on the pitch, and football was just different back then. What do you think it's changed for the better or for the worse in modern day?
Football now has gone scientific. There's a lot more science that's gone into your body and what you eat and how you train. But I feel that the managing of the games is getting too much for the referee and how the referee manages the games. There's too many niggly, just the worst type of fouls that you've ever seen. Now, if you're talking about VAR, if a person goes over and gets the other one booked, if the referee or the monitor fellow say, well, it's not his fault, he faked what he did, then he should reverse the yellow card and give him a yellow, give the person that is cheating a yellow card. There's too many of these blatant little incidents that are happening that are conning the referee. And again, has it helped? The refereeing situation has to get better with the VAR, and I think that then the game will be in a better place. Referees of Europe let things go a little more than the referees in the UK.
Well, I think that is because I've always said that European referees just seem to be a lot better than the English referees. Is that just down to the FA, the way to tell them to referee a game, or is it just poor knowledge of football, really?
I'm not too sure. I think that's the VAR is the only good as the person that's looking at the VAR.
That says it all. And finally,
and I would advocate that you get former players to do the VAR.
Yeah, people
because they will be non-biased, and get them to do a game that they are not associated with that team. So, for instance, if they want me to go and do the VAR, let me do a West Ham versus Tottenham game.
Not Liverpool.
No, just on the VAR.
Yeah.
I'm the VAR person to tell them, you should check that, Mr. Referee, please, and let him go over there and see it.
It'd make more sense.
You've given the person, you're given the red card, or so your yellow card to the wrong person because that one has done something. Please go check the monitor.
You'd think that they'd have a bit of knowledge about them to do something like that, wouldn't you? But because I remember the other week, Liverpool had a referee.
The referees.
We had a ref, and there's pictures of him. That old
the referee.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It beggars belief, but it's got to get better, and I'm sure that it will do.
Maybe you should start a little campaign, Bruce, about getting ex-players on the VAR. Could be onto a winner there.
Oh, jeepers creepers! Are the boys going to step up and go and do it?
They could do. Sack all the punditry off and go and do that. And finally, we heard about what the club means to you. But what about the fans and the people and the city of Liverpool? What does that mean to you?
I will always be associated with Liverpool. My two eldest daughters are Scousers, so there's no way that I could ever disregard the city that is bringing me so much joy. Scouse people, salt of the earth, probably the best in the world. Their wit is so sharp. And yeah, if you go around the world, there's 3 people that you'll find in the world. Any place you go.
Yeah.
One of them is going to be a Scouser.
Very true. So it's fantastic to have had you on, Bruce. I really appreciate your time, hearing your stories.
Darren, no problem at all. And to all the people that are listening to the podcast, whichever team you actually support, you support it with from the bottom of your heart. And don't let anybody tell you differently. And if you're a Scouser, you carry on supporting the team that you want, especially if it's the Reds.
Yeah, not the Blues. Thank you.